This video is, in essence, a brainstorm of possible approaches you can take for the Kingsolver essay. So if you have not already watched the video on how to organize a research essay, make sure you do that before you watch this video. Then this video will make more sense, I think, if you've already watched that kind of theory of how to organize and structure a longer length essay. Okay, so back to this particular task then. So the first thing you want to do is to think about your focus. So what about the novel interests you? So perhaps there's a particular theme that you find really interesting. I've listed off a couple here: family, community, conquest, disability, power, religion, balance. So maybe there's a particular theme. There are more themes than this, so I just listed off a few of them there, but maybe that's what you'd like to focus your essay on. Another way that you could focus your essay is if you're interested in a particular rhetorical feature or a particular literary device or a couple of literary devices. So I have some examples here. Maybe you're interested in the alternating narration, and your question might be, how does that alternating narration promote one of the novel's themes? Or perhaps you're interested in setting or point of view or symbol or irony, and how is that functioning in the text? So another large area that you could focus your essay on would be rhetorical feature or literary device. And then finally, perhaps you're interested in using a theoretical lens. So maybe you're interested in using a historical lens or a feminist lens or a structuralist lens. We hadn't talked about post-colonial in our unit on literary theory, but that might be a really good lens for this particular text. Post-colonial theory looks at how colonized nations were impacted by their colonizers. So that might be a really interesting interesting lens to use for the Poisonwood Bible. Okay, so what I've done is I've basically taken each one of these different focus ideas. So I took one from theme, I took one from rhetorical feature or literary device, and then one from a lens, and kind of blew up each one of those into a possible structure that you could use to develop your essay. So for the theme, maybe a theme you're interested in is that of conquest. We always want to ask our so what question. So the question, what does Kingsolver seem to suggest with this theme? That is essential. We need to make sure we ask that so what question so we can refine arguments for each one of those mini thesis statements. So when we ask that question, maybe this is the answer to it. Kingsolver explores layers of the term conquest in her novel. And then each one of those different sections then are around, in this case, domestic conquest, political conquest, and cultural conquest. And the mini thesis statement under domestic conquest would be something like: the novel argues that abusive marriages are a form of conquest. Maybe the second mini thesis statement is: the novel argues Western control of the Congo discounts its strengths and inhibits its progress. And then finally, cultural conquest, the novel illustrates both Belgium and American cultural imperialism in the Congo. So these would be the big sections then that you could develop in your essay. So remember when we talked about that in the previous video, what I've got color coded here in this turquoise and these two orangey colors, you would have those as your different sections. So this right here might be domestic, political, and then cultural. And then you would develop each one of those mini thesis statements with multiple topic sentences and their relevant support. So that would be one approach, is to look at a particular theme and then kind of figure out what would be the different kind of arguments around that theme. A second approach would be taking a look at rhetorical or literary device. So in this case, I chose point of view, irony, and diction. And we always want to ask that so what question. So what is Kingsolver trying to suggest with these devices? Again, we need to make sure we ask that question so we actually have arguments in each one of those mini thesis statements. So perhaps your answer to that question is that Kingsolver argues against American colonialist attitudes. So that would be our larger central thesis. So thinking back to this outline, that would be our larger central thesis. And then each one of those sections, then maybe we have one section on point of view, one on irony, and one on diction. And the mini thesis on point of view might be something like: Kingsolver's technique of alternating narrators highlights widespread American colonialistic attitudes. Maybe under the irony section, your mini thesis would be: Kingsolver's use of irony exposes popular American misconceptions about Africa And then maybe under diction, Kingsolver's diction choices reveal the subtle yet pervasive racist attitudes, racist views of many Americans have of the Congo. So again, these would be the sections then for each one of these areas here, as I described on that organizing the research essay. And each one of those mini thesis statements would then be developed with individual topic sentences and support. The last approach here is a theoretical lens, and I chose feminism. And again, we got to ask that question, the so what question, right? What is Kingsolver suggesting through that lens? So asking that question helps us get to arguments. So perhaps the answer to that question is through her female characters, Kingsolver illustrates the struggles and ramifications of the first, second, and third waves of feminism. So that would be our larger central thesis. And then the mini thesis statements could be organized around each one of the waves. So the first wave, the mini thesis statement might be something like Orleana and Leah can be seen as two divergent products of the first wave of feminism. The second section, the mini thesis could be multiple African female characters represent feminist second wave of strong female figures who are both economically and emotionally secure. See a little error there. I have an extra period. Fix that. And then perhaps our last section would be headed with the mini thesis. Rachel and Ada represent different outcomes for women of the third wave, and Kingsolver's portrayal of these two women promotes the choices represented by Ada. So those could be then the different sections of the essay. I should just note, just really briefly here, for this particular topic, feminism, scholars disagree on what constitutes a first wave and a second wave. I've chosen here the look at I've kind of ignored the whole the struggle for the vote. I kind of started here on the first wave as being the actual getting economic rights. So you'd want to make sure you define how you are looking at these different waves of feminism if you were to choose this particular kind of vein of thought for your essay. So again, then we'd want to try to figure out what are those different topic sentences that would support each one of those claims. So after you've decided on your focus, make sure that you start to flush out those ideas. I highly recommend that you have your entire outline kind of flushed out. So I have here a version. You can download this version on Writing Teacher Tools. If you go to where I described to find the illustration on the last video, right underneath that you will see this downloadable version where you can kind of fill in your mini thesis statements and start to play with your topic sentence ideas. You'll notice on this particular version, I have 4 topic sentences and 2 pieces of support. Again, remember, this is just a template. You can modify it to suit your particular argument. So you might have a section that only has 2 topic sentences. You might have a section that has 4. So whatever it is that you need to prove, however many claims you need to prove whatever your little mini thesis claim is. So regardless, I recommend that you guys kind of have your whole plan in place before you start drafting, so you can kind of see the bird's eye kind of arc of where your argument is going and to keep your essay focused. Okay, I just have a few more ideas out here. So this would be just like a really quick brainstorm of different approaches you could take for the essay. So maybe you're interested in this idea of creating community, and you might decide to organize your essay around 2 different sections, one in terms of the community that is created in Kalunga and the other with post-Kalunga. So what happens in terms of Nathan's view in Kalunga versus Brother Falls, and then post-Kalunga, we have the difference there between Rachel's view and then Leah's view. So that might be something you're interested in. Maybe another one is this idea, the theme of providing and protection, and you're interested in all the various father figures. So in this scenario, you can imagine that these sections here, I've got 3 here, you might have 6 sections, and you basically explore the implications of all these different father figures. Perhaps you're interested in the contrasting views of governing. So this idea of the American style elections versus the native system of government, and then the results of those. And so you could break those ideas apart into all kinds of ways, kind of using this outline. I can see multiple ways that you could break down those ideas. And then just a couple more here. Maybe you're interested in ethnocentrism, and so maybe you look at how that's playing out within various characters. And then finally, this question, maybe the novel explores what it means to be civilized. There's lots of irony in this novel, and maybe you kind of compare what you think Kingsolver is suggesting about Native African culture versus American culture. So those are just a bunch of just ideas to get to get you starting to think about what part of the novel you're interested in. You don't, these aren't exclusive here. There are so many other themes and other ways that you could approach the novel, but those should just get you to start thinking about what you're interested in as you start to write this essay. So that's it. Please email me or let me know if you have questions.